Hi everyone, welcome to this latest webinar hosted by Semantics. In this webinar, we'll take a look at Amazon product listings and how you can optimize them to maximize your sales. Before I hand over to our guest presenter, I just want to cover some housekeeping. We'll keep you muted during the presentation, but you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. We'll then answer as many questions as we can in the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. After the webinar, we'll send you a link to a recording so you can watch it again at your leisure. With that housekeeping done, let me introduce today's presenter, Chris Rowley. Chris manages Semantics' largest account and has been working with e-commerce and product listings for a number of years. Without further ado, let's get started. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Tony, and welcome to the Semantics webinar about how to improve your product or Amazon product listings. As said, my name is Chris, and I'm a senior consultant here at Semantics. I've worked at Semantics for 17 years, and during that time, I've had the opportunity to work on thousands of product listings on Amazon and other e-commerce platforms. Before we dive in, why don't we look at the agenda for the day? We will look at Amazon, and we'll look at the A10 algorithm. We'll also look at what factors influence product ratings and how to optimize those product listings. We'll look at how to find the right keywords, and then we'll finish off with how to craft an amazing product listing. And of course, as Tony said, we will of course handle your questions, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability at the end. So before we dive into the product listings, I'd like to set the scene a bit. So what is Amazon? Amazon is one of the world's largest tech companies with over 1.25 million employees. That makes it bigger than Google, Alibaba, and Meta combined. It's the largest e-commerce website in the world, and it operates in 13 countries with shipping globally. And in terms of revenue, it is one of the world's largest companies. So in the US alone, over half of product searches start directly on Amazon. This means that shoppers are going to Amazon to find products and are not going to other search engines like Google to do so. So therefore, understanding and being able to work with the Amazon search engine, which is called A10, is vital to being successful on Amazon. And according to Amazon, 70% of shoppers never look at more than the first page of search results. So again, similar to Google, so optimizing your product listings so that they rank on page one is really important. So obviously, Amazon is now making its way into the Nordic region, and there's been a lot of talk for many years about Amazon in the Nordics, and up till now, Amazon is only in Sweden, which started in 2020. Denmark and Norway were supposed to follow soon after that, with Finland a few years after, but things have changed since then. The rollout in Sweden was tough and maybe hasn't gone quite as expected, and regulations in Denmark and Norway have made it difficult for Amazon to do business in those markets. So for now, Nordic customers can shop in Sweden, Germany, and the other locations in Europe, but shipping and customs can be problematic if you're shopping from outside the EU. I happen to be American, so for me, buying something on Amazon in the States and getting it shipped to Denmark is not really a possibility due to customs. So now that we know a little bit more what Amazon is, what is the Amazon A10 algorithm? So the A10 is Amazon's search engine, and it's organic ranking algorithm, which takes numerous factors into account as it determines what to show on the page result. And what factors go into influencing that ranking? And we'll be spending some time looking at these today, and they include things like keywords, customer reviews, price, shipping time, purchase history, and several others. And a lot of people, of course, want to know, how often does it get updated? Well, the A10 is constantly being updated, and Amazon does not disclose how it works. So, it's really hard to know. But what we do know is that the A10 prefers a high degree of customer satisfaction, and it really favors positive reviews. And we also know that pricing and competitively priced products do well. And then finally, how does it work? And that's what we'll be talking a little bit about today, of course. So as the algorithm is constantly evolving, it's hard to know for certain exactly what it is targeting. And this puts a lot of pressure on sellers on Amazon to keep up their product listings, to constantly be ranking competitively against other products. So what factors influence the product rating? And this is one of the most important things to understand when you need to optimize your product listings. So, excuse me. So there are a number of ranking factors that need to be taken into account. And what I'll be talking about, these different factors, will be from what is considered to be the most important to potentially less important as we get to the end. And therefore there's kind of a hierarchy here in terms of what's really important. And obviously the most important are keywords. So like any other search engine, the A10 is looking to find keywords to match a customer's search, right? And so keyword placement, the hierarchy of where and how the keywords are used, and also the density of how many keywords you're using, all play a role in this ranking factor. But again, as I said, we'll talk a lot more about keywords today. And the next is customer reviews. So Amazon is well known for being customer obsessed, which is one of the reasons that customer reviews are so important for the ranking factor. So products with more positive reviews and also products with more reviews will rank higher or will be at the top of the search results. And again, because of Amazon's customer obsession, competitively priced products play a really big role in how products are ranked, and also in the ability of getting the buy box. So the buy box is on the right side of the product display page. That's the box where you can buy now or add to cart. And again, because of Amazon's customer first approach, delivery times are really important. So the faster that the product can be delivered to Amazon, the better you're going to rank. So this is a challenge, though, of course, because if you are fulfilling your own orders, you need to be competing against FBA. I have a tendency to say it the other way around. So fulfillment by Amazon. Amazon has a promise to do 2-day delivery. So if you're unable to compete with that, you will not be ranking as well as products that have FBA. Another really interesting one is actually customer location. So the algorithm is also looking at where your proximity is or the customer's proximity is to a warehouse. But that's not the only aspect of customer location. The other is, in terms of what it's going to show, might also depend on where the customer is located. So if you're in Denmark, for example, you might be presented with products that are better at keeping away the water, the rain, the wind, things that dry better outdoors. If you're in Italy, you might be presenting products that are better at keeping out the heat in the sun. So the customer location does have an effect upon what it's showing. One of the others that's really important, and I'm going to be talking about in the next slide, is customer purchase history. There are a few aspects to it that I'd like to dive into a bit deeper, so we're just going to hop over that one for now. And then the last one is the A+ content. So this is also known as enhanced brand content. So this is a part of your product details page, and it is a chance for you to show your brand to the customer. And Amazon is always looking again at giving the customer the best possible experience. So if it's able to give a improved brand experience, you also have a chance of ranking higher. So now that we've gone through these 7 main ranking factors, I'd like to just dive for a second into a little bit more into the customer's purchase history, because this one's really interesting. So the A10 is looking to find out how likely it is that the customer who's clicked on your product is actually going to be buying it, given previous reviews and the purchase history of your product. So it's going to be looking to see that decision making based on the past and how it might affect future decision making. And there are 2 things that do it. So first of all is click-through rate. So click-through rate is the percentage of people that have clicked on your product after finding it on a search result. So basically, it's the percentage of times your product is on a search result, and then how many times people are clicking on it. And another, and possibly even more important, is the conversion rate. So this is the number of people that have clicked into your product, and then the number of people who are buying, that percentage of buying after clicking. So this is really affecting as well the ranking because Amazon is trying to match, of course, customers with a product they're most likely going to buy. So now that we understand that bit, let's talk about how to optimize. So now that we understand the ranking factors, what are some of the most important aspects of a product listing that we need to be ranking on and optimizing our content for? So the first one, of course, and this is why it's also the most important ranking factor, is finding the right keywords. So the right keywords will help drive traffic to your product listing through the algorithm, through how SEO works on Amazon, and it will make sure that it's the right kind of traffic. So again, using the right keywords is matching the intent of the customer and getting to your product. You want to make sure that your product isn't in the wrong category. People aren't clicking on it, thinking that they're finding something and then finding out that it's not the thing they want. They'll click away, and that affects the click-through rate. That affects that customer purchase history. And of course, it also helps you convert traffic into sales, which is obviously the goal of being on an e-commerce site. And what's really interesting is that a lot of what we'll be talking about today is text-based, because this is where keywords are, and this is the information that you're providing to customers. But Amazon is a very image-driven e-commerce portal. So visually appealing professional images will get customers to click on your product. And of course, the higher click-through rate increases your chance of making a sale. So I'll share some examples and talk a little bit about images later on. And then, of course, what's really interesting is, and equally important, although it's not something you can really optimize for, is to gain more customer reviews. So customer reviews are one of the most effective ways of boosting your conversion rates and, of course, your product's credibility on the site. So Amazon has found that 77% of customers are looking at reviews and ratings before finalizing a transaction, right? Hitting the buy button. And we all know that. So if you've been looking for a hotel or you've been looking for a product on an e-commerce site, you're looking at, the ratings that they get, and you're more likely to choose something that has a 4.7 over a 3.3. That's just how human behavior works in terms of, the effect of other people's influence on our decisions. So it's really an important one to take into mind. So now that we understand these important aspects, let's look at how we can find the right keywords. And in order to find the right keywords, we need to understand the difference between short tail keywords and long tail keywords. So short tail keywords are usually one or two words. It could be headphone or it could be wireless headphone. So these are likely used by shoppers who don't quite know exactly what they're looking for yet, and they're maybe trying to start with a broad search to try to narrow down what they're looking for. These might also be referred to as category keywords depending on how they're used. And then, of course, long tail keywords. So long tail keywords, as the name implies, are usually more words. So it's usually 3 or more words, very much like a phrase, that are built up to be more specific. And if we're using our headphone example, this might be noise canceling wireless headphones. So now you have a longer keyword that's much closer to the intent of the customer. So, right, when you're using the long tail, the shopper has a much clearer idea of what they're going for, and they might be really narrowing in on a specific product at that point. So what are the different ways of how to find these short tail, long tail keywords? And Amazon, like many other search engines, has an autocomplete function. So you can go in and you can type in, for example, headphones, and it will start to recommend keywords that either other retailers are using to rank with or other people have been using to find a similar product, right? And so you start typing this in and you'll start seeing some of the short tail, and long tail keywords that are being suggested. So this is not only a great way to find good keywords, this is a great way to find out how other people are ranking. So maybe this could be a competitor, So let's say that you're doing wireless Bluetooth headphones and you click on that one, you have a chance of seeing how other people are ranking with that keyword. You can see, oh, I have here's my top 3 competitors. Are they on the first page or not? And you can go in and look how they're doing. And also you can also make sure you're not using keywords that aren't directed to your product. So you might click on one of these keywords and find out that if I use that keyword, I would be sending people to this kind of product, not my product. And that's also equally important to make sure that you're not just finding your optimal, but making sure you're not using the wrong keywords, or to make sure you're not using the wrong keywords, excuse me. Right. And there are several other ways of finding the right keywords. And as I've already mentioned, learning from your competition is really important. So you could go directly into Amazon to find your competitors' products, look at their product listings, see what kinds of keywords they're ranking on. You can also use the autocomplete or just type in other keywords to see if I was trying to find a product, my product and my competitors' products, I'd be maybe using these kinds of keywords. Am I finding my competitors? What kinds of keywords are they looking to do to be found on? And then, of course, see if you can do it better. Another one, of course, is to learn from customers. So product reviews can help you understand the terms that customers are using for your product. So, for example, if you might refer to these as rose gold headphones, but your customers may refer to them as pink headphones. So this is a sign that you should be including possibly both keywords into your content to improve your chances of being found. And this is also a really important basic concept around keywords. So there's one thing about what you want to call your product. It's another thing about what people actually call your product. And if you want to be found online, you need to be using the words that people are using to find your product, right? And that's the obviously what the keyword is all about, is matching that. So if you can use what the customer is doing and your own keyword, you have a really great chance of improving your findability on Amazon. And of course, the last one are all of these online tools. So Helium 10, Jungle Scout, Celix, and many other tools. These are really comprehensive keyword tools that can help you find keywords that you need to use and possibly give you a competitive edge. However, you will need to invest a lot of time in understanding how they work and working with them. And remember that because Amazon does not publish or tell anyone how its algorithm actually works, these tools are really just an aid to help you find the right keywords. But keyword research and finding the right keywords for this and any other platform is more art than science. So it's all about finding it from the competition, learning from your customers, and so on and so forth. So now that we have the right keywords in place, and we're ready now to take that next step with our product listing. But before we go into actually optimizing, we need to understand how customers are reacting to the content that's on Amazon. And so what I'd like to do now is introduce you to a heat map. And this heat map, of course, is for a book. It's not otherwise what would be known as a traditional product display page for other products that are on Amazon, but the idea still works. So what you're seeing here is that customers are very interested in the key product visual, and they're also interested in the product title. And I have worked in other projects where we've done heat maps where we've seen on a regular PDP where people were looking. And it's very clear that they're looking at the key visual, the main product, they're looking at the product title, and then they're looking at the left side of the bullets. So if you consider the heat map, you need to really understand that this is where you should be using your time and your energy and your resources. You should be front loading the visual, the title, and your bullets with your best content. So obviously we'll dig into that a little bit more. So there are a couple really important things to understand, a couple important concepts to understand about how to use your keywords. So research shows that the number of times that you use your keywords in a listing can positively impact it, and not just the right keywords, but the right density. However, there is another factor that's even more important, and that's actually readability. So you shouldn't be stuffing your title or your bullets or your description with too many keywords. So for example, if we were to say wireless headphones, pink headphones, noise canceling headphones, in-ear headphones, waterproof headphones, that's 5 or 6 keywords, and that's great to have keywords, but it's not very readable. It's not a very good experience to read that. It doesn't really give me much information. It's just a list of keywords. And if we look at the example on page here, this product in particular is ranking for only 2 keywords: hybrid active noise canceling headphones and wireless over-ear Bluetooth headphones. So these are the 2 main keywords that this particular product is trying to rank on, and the rest of it is interesting information to help the consumer. So it might be features and functions or benefits. So 40-hour playtime, that it's great for travel or for home office, for example. So it's much more readable and also gives more information, and is definitely favored by Amazon. So you need to make sure that your text has a flow. You need to make sure that it's localized to the market and it's easy to digest for the consumer. And it's not just full of unnecessary filler text or stuffed with keywords. So now that we found our keywords, we understand the importance of how to use them correctly. Now we're going to go into the anatomy of a product listing and try to apply some of what we've been learning here, and also understand how these work within an Amazon product listing. So within a product listing, there are 4 major areas that we need to focus on. So where your keywords and other areas can be optimized to improve your listing. There is a hierarchy, which I'll be going through, and this hierarchy is based on what Amazon sees as what's important, but also what people are viewing as they come into the product when they've landed on your page. So the most important are product titles. The product titles are always visible. It's the first thing you see from a text perspective, and it's also the thing you're going to see on if you're using a computer, but it's also the top thing you're going to see if you're using a mobile device. So getting your product title correct and using the most important keyword in your product title is very important. There are also a lot of guidelines around the product title, and there are so many guidelines that I'm not going to go into all of them, but there are a couple important ones to say. One is to avoid duplication. So, for example, in this example, the product name is mentioned once. You don't need to repeat the product name. You don't need to keep saying headphones, 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 headphones. In this case, they've said the word twice. That's fine because those are based on keywords, but you don't need to duplicate content to try to drive home your message. The other is you need to avoid what are known as forbidden words. So Amazon does not like subjective commentary. Subjective commentary in a title or in the text anywhere could be, for example, it's a best-selling product, right? It's a bestseller. Or you need to avoid making guarantees, for example, that it has a lifetime guarantee or that it's the best quality out there. So Amazon will reject or refuse to list your product listing if you don't follow the guidelines and if you have, for example, forbidden words. And I think the other thing that's really important to understand is that the product title and the bullets and all aspects of Amazon, they can differ by product category and they can differ by product market. So in the case of a product listing, for example, in Spain, you might have a maximum of 70 characters for a title, where in the United States, you might be able to do 250. But those restrictions can also depend whether or not you're in the toys category, you're in the home gardening category or another category. So you really need to be aware of the markets that you're in and the different categories that you're listing your product in. And then, of course, the next are bullets. And so bullets play a really key role in mentioning the features and functions of your product. This is where you can provide more information to customers to help them make their buying decision. So as you can see on this page, people will land on the image. You're going to have your title, and then you get your product descriptions here. Your product descriptions, you're allowed to have 5 to 6 bullets, and you have a maximum of 1,000 characters. And you should really be focusing on one feature or function per bullet, and the most important thing you want to say about your product should be in the first bullet. So if you remember the heat map, which we looked at, I'm just going to go back here, the heat map. In this case, people will be mostly looking at the left side of the bullets. Most people are not spending their time reading the entire bullets. They're not over here. So you need to make sure that you're front loading your bullets with the most important keywords and the most important features or functions that you want them to know about for your product, right? And so many products will do this by having a short phrase or a short summary of what's in the bullet in 3 to 5 words. They'll often have that in brackets, in rounded or square brackets. They might have it separated with a hyphen. They might do something else to set it apart so it's really clear, so it catches the eye. And so that's fulfilling that customer behavior of how people are looking at the bullets, right? So it's really important to make sure you're getting that key message over on the left side. And then product images. So product images are really key here. So as I mentioned, Amazon is a visual marketplace, and you have all the other places to use the right keywords, but getting the right images in place are going to help. So when your product shows up on a search results page, you're going to see your product title and you're going to see your image. And it's really important that your image is really engaging, visually stunning, really professional looking. It increases the chances that people will click on your product listing, right? And of course, once you land on the PDP, on your product details page, having high quality product images, of course, will increase the likelihood that people will click the buy now button or add to cart. So the images are broken down in your key visual, your first image. And best practice on Amazon is to have your product on a plain white background where you're emphasizing the product's main feature. So it's really clear what your product is and does. And then you also have other images, and these are known as secondary images. And these are an opportunity to highlight a special feature or function. You can also use text in some markets to supplement the image by calling out a certain feature or function. It could be, for example, with this product, they might want to call out the 40-hour playtime. They might want to, call out that there's a microphone that you might be able to use in, online meetings and so on and so forth. So the key visuals can be more branded. They can include text, and they're a great way of adding to the customer experience. And finally, we have product descriptions, and product descriptions are further down the page, what's known as often below the fold. You have to do some scrolling to get down to the product descriptions. And so, what's interesting here is you can write text like I'm showing here, and a product description can be a good way of getting in keywords. You can do some formatting here. To put some, you can put some, break up your copy in certain ways, but it's a great way of getting extra keywords in to improve findability. Obviously, once customers have scrolled down to this part, so now they've reached the product description, they are more likely at this point, and they've shown interest in your product. So now that they're there, this is a chance for you to add additional information that maybe you didn't talk about in your bullets that might help lead to a conversion. The other thing that's interesting about the product description is it doesn't just have to be text. So Amazon has something else that's called Amazon A+ content, which is free, and it will allow you to share branded content. So instead of having just a product text description, you can actually have images with text, and this kind of premium content, which I said again is free, really helps. And Amazon, again, because it's a customer first, because of its customer first approach, it really likes to provide branded experiences, wants to provide a really good experience for its customers. So having this in will have a positive effect upon your ranking. But if you remember on the ranking document or the ranking page we looked at, it is one of the lesser ranking parameters. One thing I do want to call out though is its effect between your like a computer, a larger device, and mobile. So a product description, as I mentioned, is further down the page on a computer, but when you go mobile, it all of a sudden completely changes. You have your product title and then your product description, especially, for example, this A+ content comes almost immediately afterwards. So if you have customers that are doing a lot of mobile shopping, if your product segment is particularly one that people use their phones to buy, you might want to consider really focusing on this because of its role on the mobile device. So that was the anatomy of how to do a product listing, the 4 major areas, and now we're pretty much wrapping up now. So what I'd like to do now is just do some key takeaways before we move into your questions. And so the first one here is really try to understand the A10 algorithm and the key ranking factors. Today we mostly focused on how to optimize your product listing, but there is more to obviously your product listing than just the title, the images, the bullets, and the description, and of course doing keywords right. There are all those other things like the review, the delivery time, price, and all of those things. So those are things you're going to really need to take into consideration that will help you, rank better. And this can't be said enough. You need to focus on finding the best keywords for your product. So keywords are really important on Amazon. Again, they're not just helping people find your product, but they're also making sure that your product isn't found by people who are looking for something else, right? So it's really important to get those keywords right so you're matching intent with the actual result. And remember the heat map and where to focus your time and attention. So you have a limited amount of real estate on a product listing, and it's important that you get it right. So nail that product title, get that key visual in place, and make sure that your bullets are front loaded. And then you're probably in a really good place, obviously, with your keywords. But just remember where to use your time and energy in terms of the listing itself. And then, of course, you want to bring everything together. So all the ranking factors, your keywords, you want to bring together how you've optimized all of these different elements to drive your sales and obviously improve your business. So thank you very much for listening today. I hope you learned a few things, and I am really excited to hear if there are any questions.
Thanks for a great presentation, Chris. I found that was really good. We've received a number of interesting questions from a guest today. I'll post each of them in the chat window. So the first question is about other e-commerce platforms. They said, are these tips good for other platforms like Shopify?
These are really geared towards Amazon. I mean, each platform is different, so you're going to need to look in what those requirements are for the different platforms in terms of titles. Do they do bullets? What kinds of descriptions? What other kinds of assets can you add in to your product display page? They can really vary. So this is really tailored to doing well on Amazon.
Okay, that's great. Next question is, are these optimization tips applicable to all types of products?
Yes and no. So again, these are general tips. And as I mentioned before, you're going to have different categories. You really need to make sure that you're optimizing for the category and against your competition as well. So again, you could have a category where the product title requirement is 70 characters. You might have another one where it's 200. So you really need to make sure that you're following the requirements within the category. And again, you need to be looking at your competition and how are you ranking against them within that category.
Okay, thanks very much. The next question is from Linda, who asks, which of these tools can provide keywords in Swedish?
So that's a good question. I mean, Sweden is still quite new for Amazon. I am not sure which ones of those will do it. I would assume probably Helium, which is the biggest of the tools, might be able to do that. That's a good question, and something that would require a little bit more looking into.
Okay, then we have another question. What is the Heatmap tool called?
There are many different heat map tools. So I don't remember which one was used for that particular example, but there are several companies that offer them. So it's definitely worth looking into.
Okay, we have another one here. Can you get a penalty from Amazon if you optimize too much?
So if you remember, I'm just going to go back here to this, excuse me while I go backwards to the slide here. So keyword usage and density are really important factors, but readability is also really important. So like many other search engines, it's looking for providing the best experience. And so readability is really important. Don't overstuff. Yes, you can. It can actually affect how you're going to rank. So provide a good experience, provide readable text, use your keywords in a good way.
Great. Then we have another question here. We already have a presence on Amazon on my job, but we don't know how good our product texts are. Can semantics help improve them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we would do an analysis. We'd look at what you're doing, finding ways to optimize, whether or not it's keywords or different ways of working with the text, for sure. And obviously, if you're localizing, I mean, semantics, we are a language company. We would also make sure that your product listings were optimized for different markets as well. Yeah.
Great. Lynn asks, you didn't mention anything about brand store and how that affects the listing. What's your take on that?
Oh, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, it all depends. Again, and again, are you doing, fulfilled by seller, fulfilled by Amazon? All these different things can affect how you're ranking, and you need to look at your brand and how that affects things. It's not always easy to find brand stores on Amazon, so they're not just going to appear in a regular search. So it's something to look into.
Okay, and the last question is, are there any specific ranking factors for medical products, YMYL and so on?
That's a really specific question, and I would have to look into that more. Again, every category is different, and you need to be looking at your category and how people are working in that category. So, I haven't worked on medical listings in the past, so we would need to look into that to find out how that affects the ranking. But I would assume, like any category in Amazon, there are specifics that you need to dig into.
Okay, that's great. That's all the questions asked for today. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thanks everyone for joining. We hope you found it valuable and hope also that we answered some of your questions around this hugely important topic. If you want to find out more about anything we've covered today, you can contact us using the link we've just published in the chat window. Thanks once more, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.